Welcome to Maddie's Monthly Foster Connection, a monthly webcast where we learn about topics of interest to those of us who are interested in starting or expanding foster programs. We are going slightly off topic today for Long Stay Pet Workshop, but I think it'll be a really fun one and I'm super excited. Our guest today is Finnegan Dowling. Finnegan Dowling is Mutual Rescue's Shelter Engagement Manager. She's been in animal welfare for more than 25 years and has worked in shelters in Washington, Colorado, California, and Nicaragua. Prior to working for Mutual Rescue, she was the social media manager for HSSV, where her work was honored with the Shorty and Communicator Awards. Finnegan's writing has been published in The Bark, Beowulf, and Huffington Post. In her current role, she works with shelters around the country to help them start day foster programs. She often presents on day fostering and marketing at animal welfare conferences. She's spoken at Best Friends, Virginia Federation of Humane Societies, New Mexico Humane Conference, and many others. She lives in coastal Texas with an opinionated dog and her husband. Welcome, Finnegan.
Hello, and thank you everybody for being here. I see so many great places and great people in the chat. Super exciting to see everybody from California to Massachusetts to Puerto Rico coming in to see this. And so my name is Finnegan Dowling, and as Kelly introduced me, give me a second, sorry, a little bit of anxiety. And what we're going to do is you guys sent in some pets and they were absolutely great. And before we even start, this is the second time I've done this, and I really want to give everybody here a huge round of applause, particularly the people who submitted pets, because the first time we did this, I had to do a lot of rewrites on bios, and the writing that I was seeing in these bios was absolutely incredible. So we're going to talk about some other stuff. We'll touch a little bit on writing. We used three of the first three animals that were submitted, so you're going to be seeing a lot of them in the presentation. And so we'll do a brief presentation, and then we'll open it up to questions and for everybody maybe to work together and maybe we can sort of crowdsource some solutions for some other animals that were submitted as well. All right, Kelly, am I okay to take the share?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So let's start with some slides because everybody loves a good PowerPoint. Am I right? Hold on just one second. Let me get to the presenter view. There we go. Okay, so the black cat that you see here is Rosie, and Rosie was submitted to us. You're going to see a lot of Rosie because, one of the things we talk about is thinking outside of the box and looking outside of animal welfare for ideas and inspiration for your marketing. And Rosie, the shelter that submitted Rosie, they had these amazing photos, and so you're going to see Rosie pretty much on every slide. So first of all, we'll start with just sort of the basics. And the secret is there really is no secret. There's just tactics, creating connection, and being creative. And one of the first things that I always talk about is looking for points of connection. Now, you're probably looking at that wacky photo of Rosie in the corner and being like, what the heck is that? They were kind enough at that shelter to allow me to kind of go crazy with those photos. So I did something that I hadn't done before, but I thought it would be interesting. Who here has heard of those Photoshop this groups on Facebook and on Reddit? If there's any reactions, go ahead and do that. Um, I put Rosie's photo in one of those groups and I said, hey, this is a 5-month-old kitten that really needs some help getting adopted. Can you guys just go crazy and have fun with her and give us some ideas? And this was one of the photos that came out of it. And the reason I started with this one is because when we talk about points of connection can be really anything. And like this person, whoever submitted this photo into that group, obviously was a Panic at the Disco fan. And even catching on to tiny little things like that. And I loved that because this would catch the idea of somebody who is in that fandom. That would catch their attention and maybe make them think that there is a reason that they saw that photo. So when we're talking about connection, we're not just talking about the bigger things, we're also talking about the little things as well. The other thing is post. Post, 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 post. The good thing about social media is also the bad thing about social media. We have so many more channels, and these channels have so many more options like reels and stories and things that disappear. So there's no reason that you can't be posting these long stay animals multiple times without flooding your feed with them. You can use stories, you can use reels, you can use those types of things. But if you have a long stay pet, you should be mentioning it at least every other week, if not every week. And again, you can use it in those stories. So every post doesn't have to be about that animal. Use tech and AI to help. It's pretty obvious that whoever submitted this photo did it through AI because if nobody else caught it, there's a slight typo in it, but which is usually an AI thing, but it doesn't matter. It's still fun. AI can also be amazing if you don't consider yourself a writer. Um, but you want to try going in a fun direction, you can ask for a happy tone or whatever. So don't be afraid to use tech. Don't be afraid to jump on existing trends like Panic at the Disco, like trending bands. I've seen some really great Bad Bunny posts lately about dogs. And where they've put bunny ears on them, but jump on existing trends just to get in there. Bring in new perspectives. I had so much fun putting these slides together because of all of the amazing perspectives that I just got by submitting these photos of Rosie to a Photoshop this group. And that gave me so many ideas that if I was marketing her, that I could then go and take off from. Jump on existing trends and don't be afraid to be funny or irreverent. Not everything has to be a Sarah McLachlan commercial. Um, Literally, some of the most common content and most beloved content on social media is fun pet stuff. And we are full of fun pets, and we know how lovely and fun these pets are. We need to be communicating that so that we are getting the same sort of views and the same sort of zeitgeist that they are. And again, ask for help outside the shelter when needed. I am a 30-year shelter worker. I do tend to view things in a very sheltery way. And sometimes I just need to put something in front of my 13-year-old goddaughter or my skater husband and say, "What's your first thought when you think of this?" Because a lot of times I'm thinking in shelter terms. So don't be afraid to go outside of the sheltering community to ask for help. Um, the other thing that I really, really, really want to talk about, or as I won't do a huge thing on it, but just don't over explain off the bat. Getting a pet is like falling in love. You have that moment of connection, and then if it's strong enough, for most of us, we make it work. And you need to allow people that moment of connection without putting a lot of jargon or stop signs in front of it. That is a conversation for adoption counseling. And obviously, I know it's something that is said often, but marketing and adoption counseling are two completely separate things. So give people the content and the posts that they have to make the connection that will allow them to get over whatever barriers the animal has that might be keeping it in the shelter. In Rosie's case, it's FIV, and needing a special diet. Um, so we'll go to the low-hanging fruit steps. Uh, just when you have animals with special needs, ask vets if you can put up flyers. A lot of times, if you have a diabetic cat, if you have, I don't know, like a dog that has a medical issue of some sort, for example, tripod or missing an eye or blind, you will find that other people that have these animals that are used to them really love them and are willing to adopt another one. So you definitely want to reach out to those vets for those medical animals. Also, a lot of these animals I'm seeing have been that we got submitted have been in foster, even just short term, and that's incredible. That gives you a really great opportunity to look for situations in which the animal has thrived and market it to similar families. Um, Seniors are a very, very overlooked um, sort of demographic in sheltering, particularly for animals that need single pet only homes. Angela Stell from New Mexico Dog had an incredible program. I think it was like Forever Foster, where they would take dogs off of chains in New Mexico. And a lot of times these dogs were big, blocky headed dogs that were older, but could not live with other dogs. And so they had a program where if you could foster the dog, they would provide a helper, they would provide support, food, all of this. And what they found is the seniors were turning up for these larger, low energy, single pet only dogs in droves. And they found that a lot of these dogs were getting placed with senior folk, and it was working out really well for the both of them. So when you're there's an epidemic of senior loneliness, and we're not really touching that when we could be, because a single person or an older person can handle a low energy dog, but they can't handle two dogs. And they maybe can't walk a dog, which is great, but they own a house. And a lot of older people don't feel safe if they live alone. So these can be really great areas. Also, jump into the zeitgeist, have fun with it. See what's trending on TikTok and play with it. Try to find ways to make posts that can dip into it. And if you are not doing videos, you need to be doing videos. Kelly mentioned the other webinar about doing short form videos, which someone like I would need because I'm Gen X and video is not my first language. I need a lot of help with that, but that is the really the medium that every single social media channel right now is promoting very hard are these short form videos. So if you are not doing them, definitely do. Couple of housekeeping steps. And again, a huge thank you to everybody in the Photoshop that group for making these slides. Like I said, there's going to be a lot of Rosie. We already talked about taking stop signs and adoption counseling out of the bios and posts. Definitely do a photo audit. Make sure the photos and videos posted are not only good, but they are sized for what you're using them for, like on bios or in sometimes I'll see photos that get stretched out. Make sure they're sized correctly. Also make sure that you have photos of the animal interacting with people. If it's good with other animals, you have photos of it interacting with other animals. People want to see how that animal would live in a home, and that allows them to make that connection. Align your team on messaging. Anybody here used to be an adoption counselor? Like, give me a react, raise your hand, something like that. Adoption counseling is one of the hardest, most unsung jobs in sheltering. And because you're doing hardcore customer service and you're also doing animal handling. And what happens, and I've seen this working as both an adoption counselor and an adoption mentor, is one staff member will say something, one adoption counselor in the break room, like, ugh, that dog Bob is really hard to handle. And all of the counselors who are already tired, exhausted, burnt out, maybe have been doing hardcore customer service, somebody will come in and want to see Bobby the dog. And they'll remember that conversation. Oh, and they'll be like, I don't really want to handle Bobby today. Maybe I can steer them towards somebody else. Or they'll repeat what that counselor told them. So you really want to make sure that with these long stays, your staff, your volunteers are all aligned on messaging, and they also know the animal. It's not a bad thing to say, hey, it's slow right now. Whenever it's slow, I want somebody to spend 15 minutes taking Bobby out. I want every counselor to spend 15 minutes with Bobby or with Rosie so that they know them and they have a connection with them and they're not depending on secondhand accounts. This is one of my absolute biggest ones. Please do a jargon sweep. What is reactivity? It sounds terrifying to people outside of sheltering. It sounds like a diagnosis. Describe the behavior. In fact, don't describe the behavior, but just go through all of your posts and see if you are using words like reactivity, barrier reactive, high arousal, hyper arousal in public facing communications. Because if you are, you might be scaring off the public when in reality, the dog barks at other dogs when it's on leash, which a lot of dogs do. So you just want to make sure that everything is said in a way that it can't be misinterpreted. Also, another big one that I see sometimes, don't diagnose pets with behavioral issues without behavioral input. There are so many great behaviorists out there. Dr. Sheila, I'm looking at you. Um, and I see a lot of shelters and rescues do things where they'll say, he has some separation anxiety. How do you know that? Well, his old owner said he would scratch at the door when they left. Okay, well, you've just put that in the bio as a diagnosis, and that dog doesn't really have that. So be very careful with how you're using those words that really are things that should be diagnosed by a behaviorist. And the last one is just housekeeping. Uh, is your adoption process so completely onerous that it would deter a potential adopter? Sometimes, just for funsies, because I'm a weirdo, I will look at adoption applications, and I have seen some that actually are longer than my college application was. And that is going to frighten somebody. It's going to make them feel judged. And if they have to fill out a 5-page application before they can even be judged worthy of meeting the animal, chances are they're not going to make it past the first page, and you might have accidentally turned off somebody that would be wonderful for you. And one thing I did not want, I forgot to put on this slide, but I really want to talk about is mining the dog's or cat's history for things that could help them find a future better home. Sometimes we overlook old notes from owners or we don't pay enough attention to them when the key to getting the animal adopted is right there. Kelly, I'm going to ask Kelly to chime in for a sec because she has a great story regarding this about a long stay dog that found the absolute perfect home and a person that really actually needed him quite a bit. Kelly, can you jump
Sure.
in here for a sec?
Sure. I was consulting with an organization and they asked, they have this long stay dog and how could they market him better? And he was really having a hard time at the shelter and needed, he was barrier reactivity and stuff. So it was hard to get an idea of like who he was. So w the first thing we did was file mining. So we went into his file and looked at all of the things that were written there, all of the previous adopters or previous owners' notes, all that. And in the previous owner's notes, it was so interesting because it was just this one tiny little line, and it was like, owner says that he alerts them when their blood sugar is high. And I was like, what? So I asked the organization about it. I said, do you know anything about this? And they were like, well, we saw that, but we weren't really sure if he could alert, so we didn't want to like put it in his bio. And I was like, well, first of all, what this means is you have either a dog who has had an immense amount of training for a specific task who could be really helpful to somebody, or you have a dog who is an actual genius who figured it out on his own and who could also be really helpful to somebody. So what they ended up doing was asking their foster bases, does anybody have, a person who has diabetes in the family? So we would like to test it out to see, well, first of all, he needs to be in a home, but a home with someone who could find out if this is actually true. And he went into foster, and they found out that yes, he actually did detect the blood sugar high levels, and he was I believe that I'm not sure if I talked to them too much after that, but they did find out, and they did market him on that, and he was adopted.
So sometimes that mining, that just going back and looking through and saying, what have we missed can help a lot. And I want to say too, when we're going through all of these tactics, you don't have to do this alone. I know every single one of you is overworked. Um, you don't have enough hours in the day. You have more animals in your like that you need to find solutions for, then you have time. Use your volunteers. Use the people around you. Ask them, if you don't like being on social media, you have somebody that would be happy to jump on Facebook and throw your animal in a Facebook group to see what people can do with it. Um, and the other thing I want to talk about, one last thing about auditing that I really suggest is if you have a long stay pet, find somebody in your life that has nothing to do with animal sheltering. And if you don't have anybody in your life that has nothing to do with animal sheltering, I love you all, but that's another issue because I worry a lot about all of you with burnout. Um, and show them that animal's bio in posts, somebody who just isn't connected to it at all, and ask them what their honest reaction is, because those are the people that will be absorbing this content and be looking at these posts. So sometimes just taking it to somebody completely outside and saying, "Hey, can you look at this and tell me what your thoughts are on Bobby the dog?" Um, that can help a lot because we do tend to be a bit of an insular community because we do such difficult and hard work that it's really good to get an outsider's eye on things. So now we're going to actually meet Rosie, who again will be showing up in many different forms. Um, and Rosie, again, I was so shocked because I usually really have to rewrite a lot of bios or I'll rewrite bios. And this cat had a great bio. The only issues that I saw is I would remove the stop signs from the social media posts, i.e., special diet, FIV. If anything, you could just say she has a couple special needs, ask us for more about them, but this cat is perfect, really. I would add more pictures. Whoever did the original photo or these photos that we used, they are incredible. Can we literally just I don't know, clone that person and put one of them in every shelter because they did amazing photos. And also, even if you don't have great photos, this is a great use for AI. Put it in Chat GPT, put it in Google Gemini, ask if they can clean it up a little, ask if they can brighten it up a little, particularly if it's a dark colored animal. That will help a lot. And always be adding or switching out your photos. I loved all of Rosie's photos. I would love to see more photos of her cuddled up on a person's lap. They did say she could possibly live with other cats. If it's possible to do an introduction, that would be great. We'll be talking about a dog named Jack later, who had some great photos of him with other dogs and people. Also, really get into the mix. And again, you don't have to do this alone. You have volunteers that spend way too much time on social media. There are FIV positive owner groups on Facebook, on Reddit, all of those. Market her there. Also, don't forget Nextdoor. Nextdoor is one of the literally the most trusted social media because people see it as a personal recommendation. So ask your volunteers to also maybe be posting about her in their Nextdoor groups. But definitely I would market this cat in FIV positive groups. And I did a quick audit and I think I found like 13 of them on Facebook alone. And don't mention FIV positivity without an explanation of it. People outside of sheltering and outside of animal welfare and vet medicine really don't know what FIV is. And so their first reaction is going to be, hopefully not, but a lot of times will be, can I get HIV from this cat? And so immediately you've kind of lost the battle, when in reality, this is a completely manageable condition that millions of cats live long, healthy lives with. Um, Also, if there is an FIV positive rescue, consider transferring her or trading her to them just because they might better know how to market an FIV cat. I say that as an example, but you guys, you're doing such a good job with it. I don't think she needs to be transferred out. But this cat, if my dog wasn't such an absolute goober with other animals, this was a cat I would take home. Um, she just seemed like a party on pause. She seemed great. And also, again, like mining that bio, could live with dogs, is friendly with kids. Do you know how many people are looking for a kitten that can live with dogs and are friendly with kids? And social media posts really lean hard on those things because those are the animals that people are looking for. Um, in another social media presentation I talk about like the different age groups and where they are and their pet owners statistics. And millennials, or I'm sorry, not millennials, it's millennials and Gen Zs, I think, are the most likely to be on social media. They spend a ton on their animals and they're the most likely to have multiple pets. So, again, make sure that you're on TikTok, you are on Instagram, which are the channels that these folks use, talking about the fact that, yeah, she's got FIV, but this is a dog-friendly, child-friendly kitten who is also adorable and playful and is obviously just a superstar. Um, with this particular cat, I'm a huge fan of guerrilla tactics and thinking outside of the box. Um, I am more than happy to take all of the images that I got of Rosie. There was like a whole, literally like a whole circus theme at one point in time that somebody did and send them to the shelter. So you could do a totally fun social campaign with all of her photos about how FIV positive cats can do anything. And just, it's another great way to do education while mentioning an adoptable animal in the post. Because as you can see, Rosie plays basketball. Rosie picks fruit. Rosie can hang up the washing. Rosie can do just about everything. And especially with an animal like this that is so photogenic and is so can easily live so many places, I would really have fun with this. I would take some of these silly photos and just put them on a flyer with a QR code that links to her bio that says nothing but "What can't Rosie do?" No other text, and put those up in libraries and stuff like that because people are going to hit that QR code to figure out who is this cat playing basketball and what is this about. It's a great way to get fresh eyes on it. We've become really jaded from social media, so sometimes you've got to go a little bit crazy with things like this. This is another dog that was submitted that if may really, really made me wish my dog was not such a goober with other animals. This is Buckley Bumbles, who has CH, which I can never pronounce. Kelly, Dr. Sheila, if you want to chime in and pronounce it for me, help me out here.
Wait, whatever your Buckley Bumbles?
Yes, we're on Buckley Bumbles.
Okay,
It's
what was
cerebellar hyd.
Oh, cerebellar hypoplasia.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And this dog is so adorable. Again, it's great with dogs. It's great with kids. It's a perfect size, but he just has a little bit of a hitch in his giddy up. And so I actually asked them for the video. They had a great video of him walking with video with some overlays on it, and I asked them for a blank of that video with no overlays on it because I wanted to show you how you can change the tone just by changing the music. The song that we used is all over TikTok. It's one of those very common songs. And thank you, Kelly, for doing this because my Gen X person could not, me being Gen X, CapCut was not my friend after 3 hours. So Kelly did this. And after we see this video, I'm going to throw it to you all in chat because we purposely left some blank spots with where text could be added and ask you guys, what text would you use? Because we want to get you starting to get you thinking outside of the box. All right, ready? So here's Buckley. Wobble, baby, wobble, baby, wobble, baby, wobble, yeah. 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 Okay, so I'm going to open my chat. Oh, no, wait, stop it. All right, I'm going to open my chat and I'm going to ask you guys, you saw some spots there for where text could be added. What were your thoughts? Oh, I love that. Shannon said he's ready to wobble his way into your heart. My first thought was I could watch this forever, and you can too. He's adoptable. I can teach you to wobble. That's adorable. Now, did anybody feel sad watching this video? Yeah, yes, can you keep up with this? Did anybody get the idea that this was a sad dog or a disabled dog or a dog that didn't wouldn't have a good lifespan? There you go. Yep. So it's amazing. And also just by trimming it down to 15 seconds and just adding a little bit of text overlay, everybody was having fun with this. See, you guys are doing great. You guys are rocking this. You don't even need me here. What am I here for? So, again, jump into that zeitgeist, see the songs that you're seeing on these that are added with these TikToks and stuff and find a way to make them work. And this dog is just absolutely perfect. Again, I did an audit. There are so many CH groups, not even going to try to pronounce it this time, on Facebook. My friend's 17-year-old son looked it up, and there's groups on Discord. There are groups on Reddit. This is a dog that definitely should be posted in these groups. But I would focus the marketing on the fact on his perfect size, his dog and kid friendliness, as opposed to the fact that he wobble baby, wobble baby, wobble babies a little bit. I also saw looking through his bio and looking through the old posts on the page that there was apparently he came in with a litter. I can't see chat right now, but it looked like there was a whole Bumble's litter. And I would consider reaching out to some of the adopters of the other puppies in that litter and letting them know he's still available. Because if they don't want to adopt him, they might have a neighbor or a friend or whatever, or even if they're in love with their dog, they will become personally invested and start to become an advocate for him and start suggesting him to people that might not be following your media. We already saw the pairing his adorable walk with fun trending music just for virality, shareability, and also just to let people know this is a really happy dog that's going to have a has a great quality of life. I would definitely add more photos to his profile, some without frames.
Oh, Shannon,
Again,
you're breaking
photos
up.
with because people love exacting is the uh,
You're breaking up a little bit.
uh-oh.
So,
Am I better
um,
now?
yeah.
I am so sorry. You are as well. Should we pause for a second or am I back?
You sound like you're back.
Okay. Up. And I'm back and it automatically restarted. I'm just gonna So the other thing that and both Kelly and I talked about this dog needs to be out in public with an Adopt Me vest on. This dog really needs to be out in public. It needs to be at farmers markets with its foster. It needs to be at PetSmart in an Adopt Me vest. This dog, I think, if this dog was out in public and with something that marked it as adoptable based on his perfect size, the fact that he's completely adorable, and the fact he seems to have a great temperament, he would get snapped up in a hot second. So consider day foster if you have some short-term or fosters that can't commit for a long time that could take him out for the day to take him to PetSmart or take him to a pet-friendly restaurant and just get some eyes on him. And let's see, Rosie's going to follow us into the next one. So Jack, oh, this dog is almost perfect as well. So Jack is from reading all of the posts about him on the Adopt Me app and the bio. Looking at these photos, there is a Chihuahua owner that would kill for this dog somewhere in the universe. There's a lot of people who really love small dogs, but want a large dog as well and don't feel like they can't have one. They can have one because of concerns with their smaller dogs. Looking at this photo, my first thought would be this dog needs to be marketed in Chihuahua groups. Yes, I know he's a Rottweiler. You could market him in Rottweiler groups as well. I definitely think just based on the other notes about him, he would get adopted there. But I think somewhere there is a somebody with small dogs that really wants a big dog, and to see such a large dog coexisting so peacefully with small dogs is really, really something that could be a game changer for him. Looking at his bio, again, just do an audit on those on the header photos, add more photos. And it said he was reactive, but again, if he can live with small dogs, which it seems that he can, um, people with small dogs are real used to reactivity. They're real used to reactivity. In fact, a lot of Chihuahua owners kind of see that as a good thing in their little dogs, which is terrible. But what I'm saying is it's behavior they're used to dealing with, and so they probably have structured their life around it. Um, I love Santa Barbara Animal Shelter. I think it's one of the best shelters in the country. And I know they have different locations. I believe he's in foster now with a senior person from the photos, which again, great dog for a senior. I would definitely
Oh,
market this dog to seniors, even if it meant having to go offline.
Finn,
Everything okay, Kelly?
breaking up a little bit. Maybe try turning off your video. It's not
Okay.
terrible though.
Sorry, guys. I don't know what's going on with my internet. Um, I would also to reach out to let me know if it's better, Kelly. I would also reach out to
Yes.
the breed rescues, and I know it's getting a dog into a breed rescue is like getting a dog into Harvard. Just ask them to cross post him. A lot of times they're willing to do a cross post for you. If he was not in a foster home, I would switch him to different locations within their system. And again, just more posts. He needs a lot of posts. And because I do think this could be a great dog for a senior living alone, because he is a medium energy dog, I would consider putting up flyers in places like senior centers and stuff like that. But the big thing I would say is do an audit for consistency because I saw he had a great bio and they had the Adopt Me app, which was awesome. And in the Adopt Me app, I saw pictures of him walking with big dogs, little dogs, all sorts of dogs. But then there was one post with his resume that said he couldn't live with other animals. And I was like, wait, what? Um, but then it was buried by newer pictures of him with dogs. So just make sure that all of that messaging, again, you really want to make sure that messaging is super consistent. So now that we've worked through those first three, just get out there and get it done. And um, I have one last slide with some resources for you guys, as well as Rosie winning the Olympics on the red carpet and going swimming. And then after that, I'm going to stop my screen share and we can open it up to the group for a conversation. We did have another dog that we were gonna screen share. That was another dog, another large dog, and maybe ask you guys to work through together just to get everybody's sort of brains working and make it a little bit more fun, but also get everybody used to thinking outside of the box. Okay? All right, so it looks like we have 20 minutes
Hmm.
left. Kelly, would you prefer we start with questions or how are we doing on
Um,
questions?
we only have a few questions. But you can maybe try turning your video back on in case it was maybe sharing or something.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good either way. What would
Okay.
you prefer?
Nope, doesn't matter to me as long as I am not breaking up again. And I'm so sorry about that, guys. It's actually really clear down here, so I have no idea why my internet is doing that. All right, so were there any questions that we should start with?
Okay. Um, Colleen is asking, are there any downsides to posting signs on kennels that indicate the dogs are long stay? We figure some people might gravitate towards those, but others would wonder what's wrong with them. We're thinking a sign that says something like, "Psst, over here, I've been here a while," with a cute picture or some info or anecdotes about the dog and what's on the kennel guard.
I definitely like the idea of, "Psst, I've been here for a while." Long stay can be a blessing and a curse. I've seen Lifeline do really well with like their 100-day heroes, where they are actually posting that on the kennels. But that's a really specific community. So if you think it would work in your community, go ahead and try it. But I love the idea of, instead of using long stay, just using things like "Psst, over here," or "I'm the best kept secret in this shelter," that sort of thing, like using those kind of wording and as a headline, and then maybe saying you can put something about long stay underneath it. But leading with long stay at times could make people think that the animal has been overlooked for a reason.
Okay. You mentioned Photoshop this. Is that a Facebook group or something? Is there a way they can leverage this? Like, I guess they're looking for there are actually a couple of people looking for a link to the group, I think.
If you just go to Facebook, I think I actually used three different groups and just went into and I just typed in free Photoshop edits. And I got like three of them. Photoshop this is is it either Photoshop this or Photoshop that? Is the one that I used for the I just follow because the people in there are hysterical with the photos, but I did look up other groups. Dr. Sheila mentioned that Reddit has a Photoshop group as well, but if you just go into these platforms and search for free Photoshop editing group or whatever, you're gonna find them. And just look at what they're doing. Like if they're being really snarky and rude, don't do it. But what I found is, even in the snarky and rude ones, where I said, "Hey, this is a really sweet kitten at a shelter who needs a home," there was no snarkiness. Everybody was just like, "Oh yeah, let me help." Like people really want to help, and it was such a great, and they really went all out on her. So,
Awesome.
and,
I have a question for Penny actually. First, Penny, has Rosie been in foster care for any length of time as long as while you've had her? But here's what Penny says. Thank you for your advice with Rosie. With FIV was not as big of a deal as her diet sensitivity. She ideally has to live alone due to a very sensitive diet. She claws her face from exposure to food dust. And my thought is, oh, good, she's about to go to a foster home. Sorry but
Mhm.
um, being in a shelter is really stressful for pets, and the stress can decrease can inhibit their immune system. So you may, if you haven't seen her in foster care before, it may be somewhat better in a foster home when she gets settled. Um, I would, Sheila, do you have any other thoughts on that? I'm sorry.
Sorry,
Eagerly.
I was busy finding links, so I was not listening
Sorry, I didn't mean
well.
to.
Photoshop battles sounds amazing too. Like, how much fun could they have with some of your pets?
Yes. So
Okay.
Kelly, I can't
Oh,
comment.
I was just asking, um, a pet who has really sensitive diet and she claws her face from exposure to food dust, but she hasn't been in foster. She's going to foster. Um, just what would you say? I had mentioned that pets in foster don't have as much stress, and so their immune systems may be working better.
Yeah, so there's certainly a possibility that is something. So when we have skin issues are very much linked to anxiety. So sometimes it's really difficult to tell whether the underlying problem is actually a medical problem, like a food allergy, or fleas are more obvious, something like that, versus anxiety. But yes, foster can really help with that, to help us, because if it gets better, then we know it was most likely the stress and anxiety. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
And I just want to take a second and talk about how I really loved the way that you did talk about the fact that she is excessively treat seeking. Um, but Do you have a huge heart and some child-proof cabinet locks? If not, they sell them on, if you have the huge heart, they sell the cabinet locks on Amazon for $5. I really do think for the right family, they would be willing to make that jump to just put cabinet locks off and on or and be very careful. There's a lot of people with OCD in the world who do not leave food out, so that would also be a great way to market it. And I say OCD not as a formal diagnosis. So,
Awesome. Any tips on getting pit mixes more attention? I feel like people shy away from them just for being a pit.
I'm a big blocky head lover. I own a blocky head. I will always put a pit bull in pajamas. I know there are some people that really don't like putting dogs in clothes. When I was a kid, I had to wear really uncomfortable clothes to go to church. Because my family was very Catholic, and I would have to wear terrible clothes for photo day at school. So a lot of pits like to wear clothes, but also anytime you can show the animal in a situation, particularly with blocky heads, where it's interacting well with other dogs, or where it's with people, or in something like pajamas that sort of soften it a little, that can help a lot. Like there's a whole pit bulls in pajamas thread that goes on Instagram, and it's a big thing. But a lot of it is just finding ways to soften the dog and humanize them. And a lot of times that will be photos with other dogs, play group videos, photos with people. And again, if it's, like my dog looks like he could eat you. He's actually terrified of flies. Uh, so like he likes to wear pajamas, but when you see him in pajamas, he doesn't look like he could eat you anymore. He looks like he snuggle you. So again, don't be afraid to put the dog in clothing. Don't be afraid to use AI to put the dog in clothing if you don't like to do that yourself. But just again, anything you can do to soften that image, that would help a lot.
Awesome. Any tips for marketing a shy dog who takes a bit of time to warm up to people in person?
Or just plain antisocial. And I'm going to turn my camera off for a second because it's saying I got the unstable warning. How many of us, being shelter workers, are shy, antisocial, or introverted? Can I get some reactions here? Because again, I don't have chat on. So, okay. That is the angle that I would take because taking a little bit of time to warm up to new people is a completely reasonable reaction. And I would state that in the bio, or in the post. I would say, "Do you love it when strangers you don't know come up and hug you?" Neither does blank. And just lead with that, just because that's such a relatable trait in people. And sometimes we just have to remind people in a fresh or funny way that animals are react a lot like us, and that not everybody likes to be grabbed or held. And sometimes with us introverted folks, it takes us a little bit longer to open up and trust, and that's okay. I would not write it as a Sarah McLachlan story. I would write it as, are you an introvert? Someone who takes a bit to warm up, but then loves deeply with all your heart? Come get your dog. He's sitting here. So,
Awesome. Kate is asking, would it be ideal to state something to the fact that they've been born in our foster program?
it depends on how old the animal is. If you're looking at an animal that is 3 or 4 years old, no, I would not, just because I would not want the stigma of people saying, well, why has it been there so long? Or what's wrong with it? If it's a younger animal, I would definitely say, yeah, like, kitty cat was born into our system, and it stinks being born in the system, but let's make sure they don't have to live there. So,
Awesome. How would you suggest marketing a three-legged Chihuahua? He loves staff, but can be scared and fearful of potential adopters.
well, that's just 3/4 of a regular Chihuahua, right? All the attitude, 3/4 of the dog. Um, so can you read he can be
Um,
Can you read
the
the question? Like
Oh
what?
yeah, read it. Okay, how would you suggest marketing a three-legged Chihuahua? He loves staff, but he can be scared and fearful of potential adopters.
Again, introvert, and also I'm a big fan of anti-marketing. Um, Actually, one of the things that kind of put me on the map for marketing was my anti-marketing. And so I would really hook it because people love naughty little dogs. Like I would really go just lean into that naughtiness. And lean into that introversion, all of the attitude, all of the loyalty, three-quarters of the dog, and just takes a little bit longer to warm up. Again, like the majority of us, he's a little socially awkward and a little bit introverted, and that's okay. Instead of presenting these things as barriers or problems, we present them as the animal has the right to not just immediately want to go home with anybody who picks it up, is just presenting them as normal instead of making it like an issue, like you should know this. Instead, just be like, oh yeah, takes a little bit, particularly with a small dog. Also, again, looking outside the box. If the dog is dog friendly, when you have somebody like a tripod, a blind dog, a deaf dog, an insulin cat, a blind cat, definitely look for those groups on social media, on Facebook, on Reddit, because they exist. And a lot of times when you see people that have adopted one of those dogs, I can't tell you how many Chihuahua mixes, or I'm sorry, Shar mixes with really bad skin or entropia I have adopted because the first dog I fell in love with was my Shar mix that had von Willebrand's disease and double entropia. And as a result, that's sort of become my type. Like entropia is like sort of a siren call to me now.
Absolutely. Um, okay, Nicole is asking, what are the most effective ways to promote a long-term dog who needs to be an only pet or has behavioral challenges, especially when the families most open to adopting are often those who already have other pets? And are there creative incentives that can encourage people to give them a chance?
This is one I would look at a little bit harder. I would like to know the size of the dog and the age of the dog. Because again, this could be a dog that could be a great companion for a senior living alone, depending on the age and energy level. Um, so I would need a little bit more on that dog to really know how to go with it. But are there creative incentives? I mean, there definitely could be. If the dog, for instance, can't be walked and you have a local fencing company that is willing to come in and sponsor helping somebody put up a fenced area if they're going to adopt, if you marketing to seniors and you have somebody who's willing to say, for instance, check in every couple weeks and see if they need any help with anything, that would be a great idea. But again, without knowing the age of the dog and the size of the dog, these single dog only with behavioral things are very difficult, or are not difficult, but they can be really different. But again, like I said, don't be afraid if you have a 7-year-old pitty that is basically a potato but can't be walked. There are a good amount of elderly people that own homes with fenced yards that are lonely and that don't feel safe in their homes and that
N-
would love and that have had dogs in the past.
Nicole just put in another thing. She said he's large and young and strong.
Hold on, I'm going to turn my video off because I'm starting to hear myself break up a little. Um, he's small and young and strong. Is this another blocky head? Do we have another
Yeah. Yeah,
pibble
I'm
in the
sorry. This
house?
was the previous question. The
Okay.
person who wrote yeah.
That is a very hard one. I would definitely consider doing a very honest appeal. And depending on, I would definitely look at perhaps free training and also maybe a support person. I think one of the most brilliant things that NM Dog did with their program of placing these former chain dogs in houses was giving the adopters a support person who would come over for the first few days and help them settle that the dog knew and help them settle the dog in the house. And not only that, but walk with them, go out with them on dog walks, and then once maybe, that's possibly willing to commit like 12 hours over a weekend. This dog comes with not only its own instruction manual, it comes with an instruction person that will help you. Don't phrase it in the way that it sounds like a barrier, like you have to have this. But if you don't feel certain, her best friend at the shelter, blank, would be happy to spend a couple hours, helping her get adjusted to your house and showing you her thing, showing you her ins and outs, that sort of thing. But sometimes with animals like that, knowing that people are more willing to adopt if they know that they have somebody they can call and just be honest with, that can maybe come over and help them work through problems instead of just having to take the dog back to the shelter and feel like they've failed it and that they've somehow done something wrong, which is a whole other webinar in and of itself because we shouldn't be doing that to people. Service humans. Oh, I love that. So, thank you, Shannon. Yes, service humans comes with a free service human for the first few days. So yeah, definitely creative incentives. Also maybe help with that, some sort of fencing if the dog is not walkable. Those sorts of things. So
Okay, we have one more question, and we will be putting we got two other pets, a cat named Isabel and a dog named Terry. We'll be putting them on Maddie's Pet Forum and giving you giving you ideas on there for those two. Just so you know, I just want to make sure that you know we haven't forgotten them. So the last question. We have a large foster network, and a number of our long stay cats are in foster care. They may have some meet and greets, but they're just not comfortable with new people. And they never do well if they're taken to an adoption event. What kind of language or promotion do you or can you do to help people understand that it just takes time?
oh, let me see if my video will come back on right now because I feel bad for not being able to look you all in the eye. Um, let's see. I mean, that's a cat. Cats take time to warm up to people. Um, and I think maybe sort of doing some posts around that on your page in a funny manner, like dogs versus cats, that sort of thing. Also, depending on how, I would also be curious as to how these pets are being marketed if they're in foster and how people can meet them. Because a lot of times when cats are in foster for a long time, period of time, if you're not getting fresh assets of them, and if you're not posting about them continually, they just sort of wind up glued in the system there because a lot of times cat fosters are like, I got six, like he's been here for a year, whatever. So they're not as incentivized to meet them. And again, instead, just keep in mind we should always be leaning hard on these positives because if you have a cat in foster that maybe is shy with people but is in a foster home with six other cats, that is where you should be starting from with marketing, is that this is a cat that has successfully lived with other cats. This is a cat also, again, look at the family and look at the situation in which the cat is thriving, market to that, and then have that conversation about shyness when people call to inquire about it. So,
Thank you. All right. Thank you so much, Finn, and thanks to all of you for watching today's webcast. Any questions? Well, actually, we didn't have any questions we weren't able to get to as far as I know, but we will be putting Isabel and Terry on Maddie's Pet Forum, and we'll be talking about them there. Finn will be available for the next few days on MPF to continue the discussion. So feel free to post more questions there.
and thank you so much to each and every one of you. I'm kind of hoping I can still read the chat after this ends because I was not able to keep up. And thank you guys all for your creativity, for your vulnerability. Again, of all the pets that were submitted, I did not see one where anybody was doing a bad job. I saw so much great writing. I saw so many great photos, and I'm so grateful to all of you. And I just want to take a second and I'll honor each and every one of you for the work that you do and how hard it is, and the fact that you show up every day, because that in and of itself makes you all superheroes.
Thank you so much. All right. Thank you all, and we will see you next time.